for all to see, the signs we've lost our way. When we jail our heroes and applaud our villains and turn our hearts away, like a silent choir, too scared to sing the anthem of a braver day, the ballad of Dr. Bruce Paix.
Here he is, becoming a movie star, and innocent bystander yiggers up at me because I was going to mention in my intro, but yes, 3 days in a row for Bruce. You know what, this is actually what I've been hoping for, and I've been, obviously he's been smashing the Clo network, something fierce, and I'm hoping that he's going to branch out into the international space and maybe get picked up by, Two Worlds Collide podcast, or maybe even Carl Stefanovic might reach out to you, Bruce, at some stage. And you reckon you'd go on to Carl's show and have a yarn to Carl? Would you do that, Bruce?
I've said to you in the past, I'll speak to a crowd of one.
Yeah, good to see you. Anyway, it's good stuff. All you as people have got to know on our show, you're very well articulated. You've got a good history. You know your stuff. You've been ahead of the curve on a lot of stuff way before a lot of us woke up to what's going on in the world. So, and I appreciate that you continue to utilize my platform to share the stories, mate, that you have to bring to us every week. I'm actually humbled by that. So I do appreciate that you continue to hang around.
I'm loyal. That's where it started, Mark. So that's all good, isn't it? And reference what you said. I had a phone call today from one of my old colleagues in South Australia. I used to know through the CFS. So I haven't seen him in several years. He rang me today and said, you popped up in my Facebook feed.
Oh, hello.
And it was the Charlie Teo Clo discussion. So there you go.
Yeah, nice, good. Yep. No, I've been sharing that around as well, and it's good stuff. We'll give it another plug tonight as well. So for my intro. So you just got to sit there and lap it up, brother. Lap it up. But anyway, shall we get the show on the road? I don't know how much you got for us today. Is it going to be a long one? What have we got? What are we looking at?
I'm guessing 2 hours-ish. It's not as many topics as normal.
Righto. Well, let's get the show on the road then, shall we? Let's do this. Anyway, I'm going to, again, be a bit self-indulgent again. I'm going to share an article that I just finished. I'm actually proud of this. I've put a lot of work into this article, fully referenced. It's actually getting a bit of traction, quite a few people picking it up. So let's just share this here quickly. So I've written this article on my Faith, Culture, Politics site. Is who funds the redefinition of sex? I'm getting a bit of feedback there, Bruce. I don't know what's going on there. Well, hang on a second. Let me just click on my soft phone. And there's better. Anyway, if people are at all interested, I'll give you a quick little elevator pitch on this article. It's who funds the redefinition of sex, traces how ideas about sex and gender moved from international advocacy networks into Australian law and public policy. My article argues that private philanthropic foundations, global NGOs, and transnational policy frameworks helped shape legal and institutional changes by funding advocacy, research, and strategic influence campaigns. Rather than emerging organically from a public demand, it contends that the redefinition of sex has been driven by a coordinated ecosystem of donors, activists, and policymakers whose influence extends from international forums to Australian courts, legislatures, and government agencies. And I assert that it has had a big influence on the Tickle v. Giggle case, and it's fully referenced. It is a lengthy article, Bruce, but if people want to jump onto my Faith, Culture, Politics fcpaustralia.com, they can see that article there. It is a lengthy one. It is fully referenced and resourced though, and it starts in 2008 in a private meeting that took place at Bellagio Centre in Adelaide. And any guess, Bruce, and let me know what the Bellagio Centre in Italy is?
I don't frequent the Bellagio Centre.
It's linked to the Rockefeller Foundation, of course, Bruce. But anyway,
Oh, colour me shocked.
Colour you shocked. So anyway, if people want to check that out, again, I understand that I'm being a bit self-indulgent with my articles, but there is quite a bit there for people to check out, and it will surprise you. And I'm currently in the middle of getting another one published that will actually link into a Greens candidate, or not a candidate. He's actually in the Legislative Council, trying to put bills in to stop religious freedoms in school, and this next article will show a little link to all of this as well. So there you go. But anyway, Bruce, enough of my little self-indulgence. The big story, obviously, is you've been busy this week, and I just wanted to share. I watched this, and what a nice chap John Stapleton is as well. And I watched this episode, and I really encourage people. Obviously, people are on the Cafe Locked Out. They're watching Cafe Locked Out here. They obviously know, they're following along. Obviously, we can't watch everything all the time, but I do recommend that was a great little discussion, and it recapped your AFB escapades as well. So I do encourage people to watch that as well, even though I don't think you get sick of listening to you telling your stories, Bruce. So I encourage the viewers to jump on and check out two great men, veteran reporter John Stapleton and the defiant Dr. Bruce Paix on the Cafe Locked Out Rumble channel there. And obviously, as always, Michael, great host there for that as well, mate. So, and then this one here should knock people out of the park as well, which is the one that you just did. Others, this one with Charlie Teo. Wow, Bruce, this is, and I think I picked up on that with you. I'm going to play a little bit of this last interaction that you had with Charlie Teo towards the end. I know that he had a bit of internet issues there, but Charlie Teo was being attacked way before a lot of the COVID people were, before 2020, right, Bruce? Like he's been in a battle and a half with what he's been through. And I'm just going to play this for the audience. For those of you that have been busy and have not caught the whole Charlie Teo and the rest of the amazing doctors that have been persecuted in this great country, Australia, I am going to play this a little bit, but I encourage you to go and watch the whole lot of it. If you are following Cafe Locked Out and you haven't done so, please do it. But I'm only just going to play this last little bit here, this interaction with John, with Charlie and Bruce.
What about you, Bruce? What are your thoughts? You're a fighter.
I'm the opposite to you. I don't think we need a organisation of any sort. We need no organisations of any sort. The problem with APRA is if you fall foul of them, who else do you go to? If they say you're not allowed to practice, then none of your patients have the opportunity to make that decision for themselves. So I'd like to see a free market in medicine, maybe multiple registration agencies, and you can choose. And your patients can choose too. If I want an APRA doctor, I'll go to the doctor with the APRA sign out. If I want one from Independent Medical Alliance, I'll go to them. And each governing body would have its own set of standards, and you could choose. Just like in the old days, you go to a mechanic and they got MTAA approved on a sticker outside. You get the choice. Nobody in Australia gets the choice anymore. If APRA says that the patient's not allowed to talk to you, they're not allowed to talk to you. If APRA says the doctor's not allowed to tell you the truth, they're not allowed to tell you the truth. I'm referring to the gag order. So the problem isn't lack of organisation. The problem is concentration of organisation, in my view. And look, I suspect we're wrapping up here, so I do want the opportunity to make an apology to Charlie. So, Charlie, we've never spoken before, but I was aware of you over at least a decade. And prior to my re-education during COVID, I remember hearing that you were the neurosurgeon who would do cases that no one else thought was a good idea. And one of the things I used to say is, don't be the guy who does something that no one else thinks is a good idea. And here am I now, having been thoroughly re-educated. In fact, all 5 doctors here, plus yourself, we are here because we said that the vast majority are wrong, and we think differently. And so we've all been extinguished, and I've learnt my lesson there, so I apologise to you.
Wow.
Apology accepted, Bruce.
I I'll buy you a beer.
If we're wrapping up,
Yes, because
Dave,
really,
is there anything you'd like to
you
say,
would
David,
need
before we
an
go?
incredible imagination to try and get your head around the Machiavellian nature of this problem. It's evil to its root, people to be good people, behave in a good way. So to think that our fellow colleagues can behave in such a terrible, terrible, disdainful, evil way is actually, very, very difficult. And so, people don't need to apologise, because it really, when you go out and tell friends at dinner parties what's happening, they all nod their heads, and I'm sure they're trying to be polite. But when they go home, I'm sure they're thinking, "Oh my God, the poor bastard! He's paranoid now. He's thinking that everyone's evil and stuff." And surely the system couldn't be that bad, and surely, people's lives, egos and personalities and regulation and stuff. And so it's really hard to actually conceive of this, terrible, terrible dysfunctional system.
Dennis pointed out, it is that bad. Every health metric you might care to examine over the last few decades is getting worse, and in some cases catastrophically so. It is that bad.
100%. I'll leave it there, Brucey, and people can jump on there and watch that. And as I said, great discussions. Whenever you get onto a podcast, you articulate yourself very well. That was another great discussion. And he's exactly right. People just have no idea of how entrenched things are. And it goes a little bit back to my article that I started the show with, Bruce, and I show in that article about the infiltration, how money is behind a lot of stuff. The COVID stuff is no different. The funding mechanism from big pharma and everything else like that got hold of our public institutions and allowed what happened over the last 5 years to happen. You bring it across to the climate change discussion, and it's the same thing. The money, you always follow the money. It's that all our institutions are fully infiltrated. And look, what an amazing bunch of guys there on that panel that Michael got on there. So well done, Michael Gray-Griffith from Cafe Locked Out, for the ongoing work that you continue to do for the Australian community. And hat off to you, my brother, for everything that you continue to do for our community as well. So that's my little pumping your tyres up, as if John Tate, my good friend John Tate, would say, if he happens to watch this. I know he's a busy man as well. He usually says he just likes to pump his tyres up, and his lovely wife Edna Tate, who's actually going to be she's going to leave the octogenarian phase next Monday. She's actually going to become a nonagenarian. So she's going to be 90 which will be celebrated on the weekend. So God bless you, John and Edna Tate. Just a big shout out there for you guys, but if you happen to be watching. So there you go, brother. Over to you, my friend.
Good heavens there. And I could actually use a couple of tyres pumped. I got a flat tyre on the tractor. I put a screwdriver through the wheel on my D-Max. I used to work in a service station, was my first job, and it was amazing the things you could pull out of flat tyres. Chop bones, sticks, nails, screws, and now a screwdriver. So there you go. So, yeah,
been a bit greedy. You've been a bit greedy.
Right.
Are we jumping into the show?
Yeah,
I also, with that show that Michael did with John, and there you talked a fair bit about the AFP scenario, and Josh Teague come up again. And I did want to just reiterate to Mr. Josh Teague, if you happen to be watching, that you only won by 350 votes in the election just gone. I wouldn't make yourself too comfortable, and next time around, because it was very close. And I think that actually One Nations might be on the hill. I think it was Labor was on the hill with preferences and that. But I'm very surprised that Josh Teague, who was then the Attorney General that sent the police around to your house because he was worried that member of the public that was highly credentialed doctor decided to challenge him for not listening to what a highly credentialed and qualified doctor had to say, and called the police on you simply for stating that you would hope that when the Nuremberg trials revisited ever get up off the ground, that he could be part of it. So, and he sent the police around. But anyway, Josh, you're watching, 350 votes is not a lot in there. So make the most of your position of being re-elected there in the seat of Hyson here in South Australia.
Yep, and One Nation will probably grab it last time, and if they don't, you'll probably be the only member of the Liberal Party left, and that's a delicious thing to see.
Yeah, I doubt it. I think there's probably more popular Liberals than him, so I doubt if he'll be there. But anyway, it's lucky that he got there in this time. Let's see what he does for the electorate of Hyson.
We saw during the week that One Nation is now officially the opposition. They're polling ahead of the LNP, which is great.
Yep. Good to see. Good to see. Righto, what do you got for us, brother?
What do we have? So let's
110.
Yeah, how about that? So we've got the contents list there. So a little update on the Gulf War, which is same as last week, same as the week before. Not much happening in the US, still saying that a deal will be with us within 24 hours. They've been saying that for 70 days, by the way. Another e-bike fire, tragic thing that we've discussed many times, the incidence of battery fires from small devices like e-bikes, skateboards, etc., is now very, very significant. And there was a Melbourne house fire overnight in which a 3-year-old died, and initial reports suggest that an e-bike on charge was probably the source of that. We've got a bit of health stuff, and to start with the health stuff, day 4.
Oh.
Day 4 of a water fast.
Oh, there you go. Good for you.
One day to go. So that's water with a glass.
Nice. Good on you.
I do that at each change of season. It's a great metabolic reset.
Yes.
Your body does a thing called autophagy. When it's not getting nutrition in, it goes through all the rooms in the house and burns the old furniture. So every cell is a machine with hundreds, if not thousands, of little organelles in it. And it goes through those and it identifies the worst, the oldest and the cruddiest ones. And it burns them for energy. And it does that to whole cells as well. And when you refeed, which I'm going to do in about 24 hours, your body notices that you've refed, it puts out growth hormone, and you replace all of those things. So it's a way of refreshing your metabolism. So that's why I do it at the change of season every time. So I eat nothing for 5 days. And I don't really suffer. So many people I talk to about that say, "Oh, I couldn't possibly miss my breakfast." Yeah, you could, mate. You could if you had to. If you were stuck in a cave in Cambodia, you could. You really could.
Absolutely. Look, I started, Bruce. I started the not a full fast. I started part. I haven't been having breakfast. I'm doing 1 meal a day at the moment and water, but I have been sneaking a cheeky red in the evening, which I need to cut back on as well. But I do need to let you know as well that I've got some vitamin I. I'm 5 days into the vitamin I, and also trying out a bit of CoQ10 after your little segment there the other week. So it hasn't affected me. I've been on 5 days on both of those, and all's well. And to be honest, the joints, Bruce, haven't been as bad.
Well, let's see what a bit of a proper test, a bit of time. Maybe tell us in a couple of weeks how you're going.
Yeah, I'll give it another couple of weeks. I'm going to see if it actually supports my skin health as well, because that'll be something nice, because I do have issues with allergies and dermatitis and eczema and stuff, and the hot and the cold, like this time of year, is bad because you have heating on and other stuff and warmer showers and stuff. So it messes with the skin a bit, but then the diet is a part to do with that as well. So that's why I'm doing a bit of fasting and that as well. So, yep, at the moment, feeling okay with the old neck and shoulders, which was giving me quite a bit of good grief. But let's see. Give it another couple of weeks and see how we go.
Yep, good luck with it. All right, back on to health. So we're going to discuss, 4 topics there. So A large Czech study has confirmed significant falls in fertility after women took the COVID injections. So we'll have a look at that study. It's first of winter today, so that means flu season is here, and our wise experts, of course, are telling us all to take our flu shots. They appear to be unaware that they either don't work or make things worse. So we'll look at some data there. The jolly old WHO has come out and pushed the old climate change is a health emergency barrow again. And I'm going to do a little bit of a dive. I saw a story that said, sad news for consumers, Kmart has stopped selling their very popular cheap non-stick fry pan, which is a $19 fry pan. So I had a bit of a look into that and thought, it's probably Teflon. And that rang a bit of a bell about health risks. And so I'll do a mini deep dive into Teflon coatings in cookware for people who don't know. We got a bit in the diversity divide section, and it shows us just how far the current anti-hate speech, anti-vilification, censorship laws go, because an Indigenous Belgian man has been jailed for speaking the truth about immigration in a public lecture. And during the court case, the judge admitted that what he said was true, but said it was irrelevant. He wasn't allowed to say it, you see.
So it's true, but it's irrelevant.
Yes. He broke the law by saying it, even if it was true. That's not a defence.
Wow.
Could come here.
Well, very well likely is.
Now, here's an interesting thing I'm pursuing this week, because the CFA training officers obviously noticed that I'm a member and sort of remote enrolled me for half a dozen courses, including a advanced driver training course, which I look forward to doing it. If it involves some heavy truck four-wheel driving, that'd actually be quite fun. And they sent me the joining instructions, and it says, do you have any dietary requirements? So I did put some down. So I said I need non-halal food, and I want to see exactly what comes from that, because flip that around. If I said I want halal food, I'd get it. If I said 100%. I want kosher, I'd get it. If I said I wanted vegetarian, pescatarian, or vegan, I'd get it. So I can't see why I can't say I want non-halal food. Let's see what my bet is. They won't do it. They'll just say, grow up, mate. Don't be stupid. And again, reverse that. Say that to a Muslim. See how far you get.
Yeah, we'll see how far you can take it, Bruce, because there could be a discrimination case coming up there.
And finally, in the government overreach section, there's been a stretch of road in Victoria where they've dropped the speed limit, I think from 100 to 80, and the local residents don't agree. And the local residents have become mini Blade Runners, just like in London, and have been going out and angle grinder cutting off the poles. So
the speed limit poles.
That's a good place to start. Who says what the speed limit is? The general public obviously don't agree with it. Who says the experts get to tell us how fast we should drive? What do they base it on? Okay. So just an interesting little topic for kicking off a discussion.
Yeah.
Righto, let's get into the jolly old updates. So what have we got here? We'll start with the Iran war update. So this is now, day 91 of the 4-day war. And really pretty much the same as last week and the week before. So what I call the phony war continues. There's a little bit of munitions going back and forth, but really not much happening. Israel is still ignoring the ceasefire. And I said at the very start of it, Israel always ignores ceasefires. If there's one thing you can trust the Israelis to do, it is to break a ceasefire. They usually do it within 24 hours. And the numbers were released recently, which said 900 Lebanese citizens had been killed by Israel since the start of the ceasefire. So pro tip for people who don't know, a ceasefire means you cease firing. So apparently the Israelis don't understand that. On the other side of the triumvirate, the US is continuing to claim that a deal is just about in hand. And in fact, they've been saying within 24 hours all week. And that little graphic there shows you a nice little timeline of that. So 70 days ago, we were 20 days away from a deal, 24 hours away from a deal. 50 days ago, the same. 30 days ago, the same. 10 days, the same. And yesterday, the same. So the old 24 hours thing seems to be a rather long time. Nevertheless, at the end of the day, the strait remains closed. And as we noted, that's the Schwerpunkt of the war. That's the decisive point. So if Hormuz is open, Iran is lost. And if Hormuz is closed, then the US is lost. So despite all the goings on, Iran is still winning this war. And also a feature we've noticed for quite a few weeks now, the oil market, the stock market, the financial markets are completely oblivious to the risks that therefore still remain. This problem is not solved, it's compounding. They are buffering the oil price down by selling off reserves, the SPR, Strategic Petroleum Reserves. So many countries have stocks of oil to use in just exactly times like this. Australia, I think, has got about 20 to 30 days. But the US had quite a big reserve. China's got an even bigger reserve. And the US has been selling oil around the world from their reserve to stop prices going up. Now, prices need to go up because that's how you balance supply and demand. So this is the equivalent of you having a job, you having $5,000 in your bank account, you losing your job, and you just continuing, even as the dollars in your bank account is falling precipitously low, you just keep spending the same. And you know what? You give stuff to your friends too. So you hide the problem by drawing down your reserves. And what that means is that sooner or later, the crunch hits because your bank account hits empty. And in fact, with the oil system, it doesn't have to hit empty. All of the oil infrastructure, from tanks to refineries to pipelines, they stop working before they go empty. There has to be a certain amount in the system beyond which you can't draw it down. There's sludge in the tanks, et cetera, et cetera. In the SPR, the salt caverns in the US, a lot of that oil is contaminated at the lower levels with water and salt and other things. So even the numbers they're telling you about how much oil is in reserve, probably 30% of that is not recoverable from reserves. So we are seeing the markets oblivious to the fact that this problem is not fixed, and it gets worse day by day.
Yep. Yes, very interesting. It's very interesting what's happening over there. It's all very much a lot of politics in that as well, isn't it?
Yep. I think that was a Clausewitz saying. War is simply politics by violent means.
Yeah, I did see a comment in the channel before, something about greater Israel and all that sort of stuff, and a bit of a check into that. There's a thing that's come up, says Zionist history, while not the primary aim of mainstream early Zionism, the vision was later adopted by revisionist Zionism and expanded into right-wing political factions like the Movement of Greater Israel, which emerged following the 1967 Six-Day War. So this is the Greater Israel Project of some sort, yeah. And that come up in the Google, so not even censored. So it's not even, that's not from me, that's straight from Google.
And for those who don't know, there are a group of Zionists. A Zionist is someone who believes in the state of Israel, its right to exist, etc., wants it to exist. So there's a Greater Israel Project, wants to vastly expand the land area that's called Israel, perhaps 10 times what it is now. And the very small size of Israel is one of its key strategic weaknesses. There's nowhere to retreat. There's no strategic depth. So, yeah, there is a group of Zionists who want a very much larger Israel. The problem they got is that they've got constant trouble within the state of Israel as it exists now. They've Arabs in the West Bank and in Gaza who are raging a generations-long insurgency because they don't agree that that's Israel. So making it bigger is going to be very difficult, I'm afraid.
It's very messy, yeah. But it doesn't just take in Gaza. Apparently, the Greater Israel Project, from what this particular group, and we're not saying this is the Israeli government now, but believes they're going to take more land other than Gaza as well. So it's pretty interesting.
Well, that's right. If you want to 10x the size of Israel, you've got to take the Sinai, you've got to take parts of Syria, probably parts of Jordan. You need a huge land grab around it. So that's going to be problematic if they really want to try and pull that off. Frankly, I think the state of Israel, as it is on very shaky ground. They've been reliant on resource transfers from the US for decades, money and weaponry. And the US population are rapidly growing tired of that. The demographics are changing. There are a lot of young people and Arabs and Muslims who are now in America who just they don't support that. So I think in the short to medium term, in the next decade or two, Israel's going to have a great deal of trouble just existing as it is, let alone expanding.
All right, watch this space, Brucey? Watch this space.
Do you reckon we could come back in, what's that'll be, show 50 shows a year, show 600 and something, and just revisit what I said now?
Yeah, let's see how we go. 600. So what's the 600? Well, yeah, that's a few more years. Only 5 years or something, isn't it?
So not easy being green, and yet sad story. There was another house fire involving probably a charging electric battery, with this report coming from Werribee in the western suburbs of Melbourne overnight, where reportedly a charging second-hand e-bike was being charged and a fire erupted, and there was 4 people in the house. There was an 11-year-old child who climbed out. There was a 3-year-old who died in the house, and the father apparently went back in to try and rescue him and came out with severe burns. So, yeah, another very sad story. Fires are an intrinsic hazard of batteries, I'm afraid.
Yeah, very, very, very sad.
Yeah. All right, money and finance. So in money and finance, we've got general softness across the board for the alternate monies, and gold, silver and Bitcoin are what I regard as alternate monies, alternates to fiat currency. So they're all down from a little bit to a little bit more. Stock market's roughly flat, and the oil price inexplicably is down 5%. And as I've been saying for weeks, that is the market lying to you. All is not well in the oil market, and the longer the war goes, the worse things get. The more supplies get drawn down, and the greater the risk that a flare-up in the Gulf is going to start destroying more infrastructure and making it harder to bring the supplies back online. So I'm not fooled by that. Nevertheless,
interesting.
Nevertheless, the local oil, petrol and diesel prices are pretty much the same as last week, with no significant changes, and they look almost reasonable again now. But remember, I think there's 24 cents of less tax in that. You remember at the start, the government's halved the fuel excise, and excise is, by the way. So the real effective price, pump price, is still 23 cents. I think it is more than you're seeing there. And I think there was a 3-month cap on that. Well, 3 months is 90 days. And what are we up to now? 80 days or something with the Gulf War? So it can't be too long until the government either has to extend or drop off that tax rebate.
Yep.
All righty.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Cutting the tax that they did on there. Yeah. So it's
And
not a
remember
true and accurate figure, is it?
the Liberals ran on that. They said they would permanently halve the fuel excise, but they got trounced at the election. People didn't want it.
Hmm. Yes, that's right. They did get blown up. Yep, other coal stacks got blown up again. So not just our South Australian ones, but they're really going hard and fast, aren't they, Go?
Burning the boats, eh?
Mm-hmm. That's it. Burning the lifeboats.
All right. On to health. So what do we got in health? So to start with, we've got another paper confirming what many of us thought or observed several years ago, and that was that the COVID injections reduced fertility. So that's what this paper was reporting. And here's what it looked at and what it found. So this paper looked at what's called national level medical data from the Czech Republic. So that means everybody in the country. And the Czech Republic's, I think, about 10 million people. So they identified all 1.3 million potentially fertile women out of that population. So they took women, not men. I don't think they took trans women. And they had to be aged between 18 and 39. So that was the subset they looked at and said, these are women who could get pregnant. And they looked at their pregnancy rates over 3 years, 2021, 2022, 2023, split into whether they'd had a COVID vax or not. So what have they found? They found a 1/3 reduction in successful pregnancies amongst the vaccinated women. So that's a huge drop by 1/3. This cohort of 1.3 million people. And they said it affected a bit over 70% of the population. So it's a massive drop. And as a result, the total fertility rate in the Czech Republic decreased again. So it went from 1.83 children per woman in 1,000 in 2021 to 1.6 to 1.4. So significant decline in fertility.
Wow, it's huge, eh? It's massive. And we're seeing the same around the Western world in particular, aren't we? And this is, just, it's baffling, isn't it, Bruce? It's baffling.
It's baffling. Disinformation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of disinformation, the flu season started because it's the first day of winter today.
Yeah, because it just works that way.
When I wrote this, I said, apparently it's the first day of winter. And you know what? Today has been cold and bleak and best part of 20 mils of rain here. So maybe it is the first day of winter.
Yeah, here too, mate. Adelaide's been the same. Yeah, I normally have the door open during the day while I'm working, and it was closed today, to be honest.
All right. So predictably, the pressure is starting to come out about, please go and get your flu shot. If not for yourself, then maybe for your grandma. Okay.
Your nonna, as Greg Hunt would say.
Exactly. So our wise rulers are apparently unaware of the fact that the flu shots may well be either ineffective or negatively effective. So, for example, this recent study of 400,000 Spanish citizens, where they rolled out a Get Your Kids Vaxxed Now campaign. So they had a real push to get children between 0 and 4 years flu vaxxed. And when they examined the results of that, they found that there was no reduction in influenza diagnoses or hospitalizations for the children. And they also found that there was no reduction in flu hospitalizations for the adults and for grandma. So in other words, they found no evidence of benefit after a concerted campaign to get flu vax starting with children. So the kids were not protecting grandma or themselves. There was no benefit. And that was a big study, 400,000.
That's huge.
And that, of course, mirrors the Cleveland Clinic study from the US a year or two ago. They had a captive audience, so they told everybody in their workforce you have to get the flu shot. And most of them did, but about 20% didn't. So 44,000 of their employees took the shot and 9,000 didn't. Not sure how they got away with not doing it. And when they examined what then happened over about 6 months, they found that the ones who'd been vaxxed with the flu shot had a 27% higher rate of influenza. So a clear negative benefit. Not just we couldn't find a difference, we found a major difference in the flu experience depending on whether or not you were vaxxed. So our wise rulers perhaps unaware of that. And going back to first principles, there are a couple of reasons why flu shots might fail, a couple of theoretical reasons. One is that the shot is always obsolete. It always takes them 6 months or more to make this season's batch, the fashion for this season. And they're always guessing what the flu's going to look like now and making the decision 6 months earlier. So they really don't know what coverage the flu shot's got, because by my memory, it's got 4 different what they call valencies. So they can address 4 different flu strains, and they base that on what was around last year. So they're like the general always fighting the last war. And if it turns out that the current flu that's circulating this season isn't covered by any of those 4, then it's not going to work. So that's one reason why flu shots don't work. The other reason is that if you inject a vaccine for a respiratory illness, you're not mimicking nature. Respiratory illnesses come in through your mouth and nose. They lodge in what's called the mucosal immune system, and we've talked about that previously with Ted Steele, Robert Clancy's work. And when the flu does that, your body knows where that invasion happened. It makes relevant antibodies and it sends them to that. So it sends them to what are called mucosal surfaces, the lining of your throat, the lining of your nose, etc., etc. And in fact, any mucosal surface in your body, so that includes your entire gut. So mucosa is that slippery, wet stuff you've got in the mouth. It goes all the way through your respiratory system, goes all the way through your digestive system. So if you give your vaccine through the injected route, your body thinks this is an inner attack, not a mucosal level attack. So it produces defenses internally in the body when where you need them is on the beach. You need them at that mucosal surface. So injecting a vaccine is never going to stop you catching the disease in the first place. You might argue that it mitigates the disease if it invades past the mucosal system into your interior. If you've got a whole body core infection called sepsis, you could argue that it might work for that if it works, but it can never stop it getting ashore at the beach because the defenses aren't there at the beach. So there are 2 reasons why flu vaxxers might fail, and also 2 reasons why the COVID vaxxers might fail. So,
well, many in our camp would say they actually didn't fail. They served the purpose that they were designed for.
Depends what victory looks like, doesn't it, Mark?
Exactly right.
So I looked up, and of the 7 flu vaxxers that are listed on the Australian schedule for this season, only one of them is a inhaled, and that's flu mist. So one of the flu shots you're giving squirting into your nose, which means you're stimulating the right part of your immune system. The other 6 you're injecting, which means they can't work unless the flu managed to invade deeply into your body. They can't stop you getting the flu. They might mitigate severe flu. So if I were going to take a flu shot, and for years I did, for decades I did, as a health worker, they used to push around these trolleys. There'd be the vax nurse would push the trolley around at the appropriate time and give you a shot and give you a lollipop. And I just took it because I was there to protect grandma. That's I believe what they said, which is this will protect grandma. Now, as noted, if you inject a vaccine to a respiratory illness, it doesn't protect grandma because it doesn't stop you getting a respiratory illness. It only maybe stops you getting a deep inner core infection. It does nothing to transmissibility. And in fact, it's possible that it makes you more infectious because it's harder for you to get really sick, which just means you're more likely to be out and about and spreading it in that circumstance.
Like the old soldier on ads, you know, the old codrils, remember? Get out of work, feeling like crap, get to work, take some codral and soldier on and get out there and spread it around.
Now, soldier on has really fallen from favour at the moment, hasn't it? Remember, you could be perfectly well and get a positive test and you were stuck home for 2 weeks. Whereas a few years before that, you know, if you didn't turn up at work, you're a pussy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, how things have changed. It's almost by design, Bruce.
What I'm saying, I used to believe the hype. I didn't know that flu vaxes were often ineffective, maybe negatively effective. I didn't know that most vaccines have side effects in other areas, which can be dangerous, asthma, eczema, diabetes, etc., etc. So I did the right thing. I took it. I wouldn't do that now with what I've learned. What I might do is if I really had to take one, I'd take the inhaled one because at least it's going into the right compartment. Can you flash up that comment about flu mist?
From Gail.
Flu mist causes asthma, wheezing and hospitalisation, terrible adjuvants. Thank you, Gail. I don't know any of that. I didn't actually look into that. So thanks for that.
Yeah, well, you know, people don't often talk enough about the old God-given natural immunity and just keep pumping, you know, creating stuff to pump into you.
I wouldn't mind a bit of musket to pump in at the moment either.
You sound a bit flat, mate. You need a musket.
Oh, mate, that's why it's a short show. I just couldn't bear it.
Nah, fair enough, mate. I understand. This is your 5th day.
It's the 4th day. Got one more to go.
It's the 4th day. One more to go.
Now, I did look up, when I was looking up those 7 different vaccines and whether they were injected or inhaled, I looked at the adverse events that were listed next to the various products. And here's what they did list. So they listed local effects. You get a sore arm, fever, rarely an allergic reaction, rarely Guillain-Barré, also known as paralysis, and possibly previously known as polio. And narcolepsy, which is where you just drop off to sleep. It's a cerebral thing. So they're the relatively few side effects that they list, which are either minor or rare. Now, they haven't mentioned that the thing might not work. Surely that's a risk, failure. They haven't mentioned that you might be more likely to get the flu after it. Surely that's a risk. And we found that with COVID. The COVID injections increased your risk of catching COVID shortly after you got the shot. And that, of course, was one of the key frauds that they perpetrated to demonstrate an effectiveness of the COVID shots, because they gave you the shot, they labelled you as unvaccinated until 2 weeks later, and any side effects you got, including getting COVID, they said you're in the unvaccinated box. That was an outright fraud. And mathematically, it's been shown that that alone was enough to manufacture evidence of effectiveness of the COVID vax. So they framed the unvaccinated for the side effects of the vaccine. Anyway, ancient history, unfortunately.
Yeah, yes.
Now, here's some more side effects they didn't list for the flu shots. Failure to protect and increased risk, and we talked about both of those. And they didn't list chronic illness. So we know that generically, the more vaccines you get, the more likely you are to get an unrelated chronic illness, asthma, eczema, type 1 diabetes, ADHD, autism, etc. And remember what Paul Thomas showed with his graphs. The unvaccinated often had 5x lower rates of chronic illness, or in some cases, not a single case. So they couldn't do the numbers compared to the vaxxed. And that was looking at all the childhood vaxxers. That's only a few of the adverse events that are written on the insert, which the doctor doesn't like to give you before agreeing to it. The doctor probably doesn't even know. They probably don't have the time to read it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is it exactly. I mean, yeah, they were hoodwinked, and as I discussed with Ted Steele that day, and as you'd know as well, you've said it as well, Bruce, that the training that you get in your doctors or the studies that you do, you get a very small, minute smidgen of vaccine-related stuff. It's just trust the PR app in the pharmaceutical companies, and the doctors get nothing, no proper training in regards to immunology and that, as Ted was saying, proper immunology and how it all works and how the vaccines work.
Well, I knew nothing until I started doing my own research during COVID. Prior to that, at best, I might be able to recite parts of the schedule to you. You know, ADT at 2, 4, 6 months, 5 years, etc., etc. So no, we were given maybe a day all up, and it was all about what's in the schedule. Nothing about how it works, nothing about risks, controversies. We were just, you know, I said on, I can't remember, it was Charlie Teos or to John Stapleton, why did so many doctors fail this test when COVID came along and fail to work out, A, that it was a fraud, and B, that they were hurting their patients? They did it because medicine selects for good learners, not good thinkers. You spend, in my case, 6 + 1 years in medical school, learning stuff to repeat it at the exam. You have no ability to independently research any of it. And after you graduate, you're too busy to look at it. The only information you get is from drug reps, either at conferences or they come to your office, book a slot and tell you about, you know, here's this great new drug and here's a paper on it and here's a few free samples. And you have no ability to cross-check that. And the paper itself, like so many of the vaccine safety papers, is written by pharma. It's fraudulent in whatever way. So, yeah, doctors, they're just good learners. They're not good thinkers. And the very few, I hate to say, the very few independent thinkers rapidly self-identified during COVID and got eliminated for that, because that's not what the industry wants.
Yep, exactly right. Exactly right.
All right, so we've listed, okay, it's flu season, they're pushing the flu shots, they're not telling us the downsides. What are they telling us? So what are our wise rulers telling us? This is from the Victorian Government Department of Health, but you'll get the same thing in any state Department of Health and probably at a federal level. So this is a quote from Victoria's website. Annual influenza vaccination is the most important measure to prevent influenza and its complications. It is recommended for all people 6 months of age and over. So the most important thing to do is to give you a vaccine which theoretically can't work, and in recent studies is either ineffective or negatively effective. That is the most important thing you can do, Mark. And you might remember we had this discussion about vitamin D during the COVID era. We had Scott Morrison in a pharmacy shilling his vaccines to everybody, and rows of things on the shelf behind him which would have included vitamin D, which would have actually been useful.
Yeah.
Not a word.
No. Fresh air, exercise is like, you know, someone's at the beach, one person with no one around them, and police walk down on the beach to go and accost them for being out and about and not having a mask on.
Now, I'd almost give you a gazump strike, but we'll see.
Trust the expert. Trust the science. Trust the science, Bruce. Oh, here's John Campbell.
So here's just a little reminder to people. Vitamin D is not a vitamin. It is a critical nutrient that does a huge number of things in your body. It's particularly concerned with regulation and activation of the immune system, and also the production of steroid hormones, things like testosterone. So it's critically important for health in those systems. And most of your vitamin D comes from the sun. It's made by ultraviolet light falling on your skin. And that's another thing they've demonized. Remember the old slip, slop, slap? Cover up. So most populations in the Western world are grossly vitamin D deficient because we simply don't get out in the sun. And in fact, I would urge you to have a look at this YouTube piece by John Campbell. I'm not going to play it, but what you've got there is both the link, and also you can find it by just searching John Campbell vitamin D on YouTube, and that'll come up. And in this, the piece that he did, you might remember during COVID, there was a negative correlation between your vitamin D level and how sick you got with COVID. So most of the people who got seriously sick or died from COVID had very low vitamin D levels, catastrophically low, 30 to 50 nanomoles. But that's about what our wise experts recommend. If you get a blood test and you do your vitamin D, there'll be a normal range, and it'll probably say 50 upwards. And a reminder to people, the way medicine makes these normal ranges for anything. You get a blood test, it'll tell you your sodium was 140 and it should be, 138 to 144. Every single number will have a normal range next to it. And the way they determine those normal ranges is they just survey the population and see what's out there. The problem with that is that the majority of the population are not well. They're metabolically ill already. So based on that, they tell you that, a level of vitamin D of 50 nanomoles per litre is okay. That's what you need, because that's what most of the population's got. No, that means most of the population is vitamin D deficient. Furthermore, they recommend that, you need 600 international units of intake a day to meet that, either in your food or in a tablet. They don't mention the sun at all, of course. Now, in this YouTube piece, John Campbell said that our wise medical experts have suddenly realised that they've been telling us the wrong thing for years just because they made an arithmetic error. And so what he said is that you probably need to take 10 times as much vitamin D as our wise experts tell us. So they say, if you're going to take it, take 600 a day. John Campbell says, you need 7,000 a day. And I can 100% back this up because I discovered by experiment that that's about what I need. I take 6,000 units a day and get as much sun as I can. And I back that up by getting my vitamin D tested at the end of winter and the end of summer. So I know without supplement, even with lots of sun exposure, I'm still low in vitamin D. So
so there's a few comments coming in around the capsules and the tablets and that. Well, I mean, in regards to vitamin D, I know that my girls get vitamin D deficient quite a lot. They were put on a liquid or powdery vitamin D. I think it was, and then there's also capsules as well. What's you buy them in the capsules?
I do, and I don't know anything about the relative benefits of different formulations. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, but it's good friend again talking about John Tate. He used to walk around his backyard in his undies on when it was sunny, and he got his vitamin D count up that way. After about a month or so, him and Edna both went for blood tests, and she was taking tablets, and he was doing the sun thing, and he got up over 100, 120 or something like that.
I think the normal range should be over 125. My last test was about 150 because I believe that's where you need to be. I think the official normal ranges are grossly low. And not only that, the amount they tell you to reach that doesn't even get you there. So like I say, I take 7,000 units a day and I get blood tests twice a year to discover where I'm at. And by the way, you can either get a blood test through your GP, which I find tedious because they rather test my cholesterol than my vitamin D. So I tend to just order them online, and we've discussed that previously. There's any number of online medical test companies that will send you a form. You just go off to the pathology collection point, and they'll do it for you. You got to pay for it, but you're not paying to go to your GP. And when I go and see a GP for a routine consult, and trust me, all I'm ever doing is to get something done. I haven't been to a GP to say I've got a problem that needs fixing in decades. But now that I'm not registered to practice, I need scripts for thyroid tablets, for example. And so for me, if I go down and see a GP for a blood test, I think it's either $70, $80 or $90 for the visit. And then it's the same again for the results. And Medicare pays some of it, but not all that much. So I find it's certainly cost neutral, cost similar to just go online, order my own tests and sort it out myself in time.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And Oswald was saying something about checking the ingredients. They were mentioning something about it containing calciferol. Vitamin D capsules contain calciferol, the same ingredients in rat poison. Check the ingredients and vitamin D. Interesting.
My biochemistry is a little bit out on that, but my memory is that a lot of rat poison is warfarin, which is an anticoagulant. And calciferol, I think, is a variety. I'm just going to Google that now. I think vitamin D is DHCC, dihydroxycholecalciferol. I'm just going to...
yeah, calciferol,
yeah. Bear with me. Okay, so I've just done a quick check of the Googles. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble steroid. The two most important compounds are vitamin D2, ergocalciferol, and vitamin D3, cholecalciferol. So I don't think that's a reasonable concern there. I think that is actually what is meant to be in it.
Because it says the ergocalciferol derived from plant and often used in food fortification, and the other one synthesized in human skin when exposed to sunlight and found in animal-based foods. So there you go. So maybe rats just don't like vitamin D.
And just to finish out, a reminder that they noticed fairly early on in COVID that your risk of dying dramatically fell once your vitamin D level was over 70 nanomoles per litre. And remember, our wise medical experts were telling us that 50 is fine, 50 is okay. But the Italian data showed that a lot of their elderly people who died in droves had vitamin Ds in the 20 to 30 range. And in fact, looking at the data, once your level got to 70, your risk of dying from COVID precipitously dropped. And when it got to about 90, it was effectively zero. So again, Scott Morrison standing in a pharmacy shilling his vaccines, on the shelf behind him would have been vitamin D tablets. If they'd have told everybody in the country at the start, take 5,000 units of vitamin D a day and get your GP to monitor it, we probably would have had virtually no COVID deaths in Australia if they'd done that.
Yeah, but that wouldn't have been part of the plan, Bruce. That wouldn't have been part of the plan.
Well, it was part of the plan, but not in the way you think.
No, that's right.
Yeah. The plan was to suppress all alternatives to the injections. So that's why hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin were banned, and doctors were jailed for prescribing it, including Mai Lee, who wasn't jailed, but she was found guilty of unprofessional conduct for giving ivermectin to a seriously ill COVID patient who then survived.
Yep. And it was that person that actually dobbed her in too, wasn't it?
Dr.
Mai Lee, wasn't it? The patient that she treated too was the one that colluded to dob her in or something as well, right?
Yes, that's right. That's right. So for the crime of curing a patient after the conventional system had said, yeah, go to die, she's 4 or 5 years later still having trouble with her medical license. And of course, we saw things like this on the beaches. The few people who had the temerity to go out and get some vitamin D, and I would venture that old man does a fair bit of vitamin D.
Yeah, I reckon so too. Yeah, probably find his local nutty beach too, I reckon.
Look, I don't know whether he's in the nutty or not, but we saw pictures of this. We saw the police menacing and then moving on or arresting people who were sunbathing solo during COVID.
Yeah, that's right.
If COVID was a risk there, the only risk is because the police approached this guy.
Yeah, that's right.
If they'd have left him alone, he was zero risk. And as we said, he probably was low risk anyway if he's getting plenty of vitamin D, and it looks like it. And contrast it with the police with all their tack vests and masks and gear. He's not scared of the virus, but they are. What's going on there?
Yeah, no, exactly right. Exactly right. And you brought up Scott Morrison twice now, the pharmacy, mate. I've got to play something quickly. You brought him up twice now, mate. I'm just going to show this.
We've got good production staff, don't we?
I appreciate greatly the work done by all the premiers and chief ministers and seeing those national vaccination rates get to where they are. We've got one more state to get through that gate. As it's a bit like getting the sheep through the gate and into the run. It's a bit like getting the sheep through the gate. And it's a bit like getting the sheep through the gate. What do you want?
There you go. Marketing.
And Liberal Party, if you're wondering why you're sitting on 12% support and One Nation has become the opposition, it's what you did to us during COVID. We expected Labor to do it. We expected the Greens to do it. They're both pocket communists. The Liberal Party are meant to be about freedom, and they utterly failed us. You're dead. You're gone. You're never getting my vote again. I don't care what leadership you got, what policies you change. You failed your biggest test big time.
Yeah, 100%. And looking back at it now, Bruce, they were part of the whole corporatist kind of agenda, the global corporatist agenda anyway. The funding to both bloody Liberal, Labor, Greens, as we're finding out more and more. That's why there's a rise in One Nation. Australians are waking up to the fact that these people are manipulated by international interests. The Liberal Party, it was never like probably about 20 or 30 years after Menzies it stopped being the party of Menzies, I reckon.
Two cheeks of the same others.
Captured, 100% captured. Yes, that's right, Big Booty. Fake conservatives. Yep, exactly right.
All right. And it's not just flu season we've got to worry about, because the WHO's out again. And this story from Anthony Watt's climate blog, which is excellent. And he reports that the WHO are rolling out the old climate change is a health emergency thing again. Here's what the article said. In December 2024, WHO Director Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus testified by the International Court of Justice that climate change is fundamentally a health crisis.
Oh my gosh. Well, these guys just don't give up, don't they? There must be so much invested in it.
Lockdowns to save grandma. Why not lockdowns to save grandma Earth?
True. Geez, they're constantly getting the defibrillator out on these, aren't they?
Well, the whole scam needs to be resuscitated constantly because it's been dead for a while.
Yeah, exactly right. People are waking up, but they're still going ahead with their little, all their work.
Now, climate realist Bjorn Lomborg, he's not even a dirty climate denier. He's just an economist who says, okay, if it's real, this is the cost of letting it happen. This is the cost of mitigation, which is more important. So he responded to that and said it was a textbook work on climate deception. He pointed out that the recent publications which say people die in hot weather are in fact not caused by hot weather. They're caused by the fact that the population is getting older. And he also pointed out that the Lancet has also published reports that say 10 times as many people die in cold weather as die in hot weather.
Yeah.
So they're just hypocrites. They're just pushing a barrow and they're twisting and turning on the data to give you, the latest HL Mencken scare.
Yeah. And you and I have covered that before on the show too, about the hot and cold issue, that cold kills way more people.
Yeah. Even in hot countries, by the way. Even in hot countries, cold snaps kill a lot more people. Now, He also pointed out that in the meantime, deaths from extreme weather, cyclones, floods, etc., have dropped off a cliff in the last century. And they've done that because people are not as poor anymore, and they're not as poor because they've got more energy, they've got more economy, they can build safer structures. So that has meant that the real risk of dying in a weather emergency on a per capita basis has dropped off 99%. Almost nobody dies by the droves in a cyclone anymore. I remember back when I was a youngster, you would hear that Bangladesh had been hit by a cyclone and that, 100,000 people had been killed. Nowadays, they've got safer structures, they've got cyclone shelters, and I don't remember when I last heard about Bangladesh having a big death toll from a cyclone. And wealth has done that. Wealth has done that, More money to spend on more secure structures and mitigations for weather has saved almost all the lives that were previously lost. And of course, the Greens want us to go back a couple of 100 years. They want us to go back to the days of sail and windmills. And that's when all this stuff used to happen. They didn't have their wealth.
So does Labor now anyway. They're the ones in charge now, blowing up the bloody coal stations and stuff like that. So Greens and Labor, same bird, same bloody two wings of the same bird, and it's right though too. Like all these things changed over the last 100 years. We mentioned even about the illnesses, childhood illnesses. They were dropping drastically before vaccines come out because of sanitation and hygiene. No more dead horses in the street, and it's the same with weather. Better housing, better infrastructure, better everything.
All true. Right. All right, moving on a bit. Sad story here because Kmart has announced that they're stopping selling their popular cheap fry pan. Apparently the world's best fry pan, even though it only costs $19. Now, looking into the story, here's what the story says. The budget retailer's $19 stainless steel non-stick fry pan, that's the important bit, was a staple offering for years. So they've stopped selling a cheap non-stick fry pan. That's what the story's about. So I, like I say, that rung a bell there. So I did a bit of a check on the Googles. Okay, what is a non-stick fry pan? And here's what the Google said. Non-stick fry pans work by using a special chemical coating, usually PTFE, also known as Teflon, or a ceramic sol gel that creates a low friction surface. Now, further reading says that the ceramic versions are expensive, so I'm almost certain that this cheap $19 fry pan that Kmart stopped selling would have been a Teflon fry pan. Okay, so what is Teflon? That's what Teflon is. It's a brand name for polytetrafluoroethylene. And the important thing for me to note there is it's full of fluoride ions. And we've discussed fluoride ions in the past. And this was a popular non-stick coating that was first produced in the 1950s. It was one of those many miracle drugs of the miracle products of the 50s, along with DDT and whatever. So looking at all those fluoride ions worried me, and I did a bit more digging about Teflon. So despite the usual safe and effectives, which was certainly how it was marketed in the 50s and after that, over time there's been increasing concern raised that in fact Teflon is not a good thing to be heating to several hundred degrees above your food or below your food. So there's been concerns raised about toxicity. And this is what's generally accepted for Teflon. The coating can degrade or release toxic fumes if overheated. PTFE pans, Teflon pans, should not be heated above 260 degrees.
There you go.
Okay. All right. And that's the basis for which they say it's safe now. We'll just use it properly. You don't need seat belts, just drive safely.
Yeah. And who has a thermostat on the side of their bloody frying pan while they're cooking to make sure it doesn't go over 260 degrees?
Well, here's what the helpful safety advice for this dangerous product is: never preheat an empty pan because it's got the potential to get hotter. A dry empty pan can reach dangerous fume-releasing temperatures in a few minutes. What cook has not stuck a pan on the stove, whacked a dollop of butter in it, and then gone away for a few minutes?
Yeah, wait for the butter to kind of melt away and away you go.
It also says avoid high heat, stick to low and medium heat settings. Well, what are they? We'd seen in the previous slide that they're saying not above 260. Doesn't sound real hot to me, especially if you're using a gas stove, which is a flame, in a thin pan. I mean, nobody's measuring the food surface temperature of your Teflon pan, but I would have thought it'd be pretty easy to get it above 260 because it ain't real hot. Now, even if you do, this 2017 article noted that Teflon isn't really safe at any cooking temperature. And it said at normal cooking temperatures, PDFE-coated cookware releases various gases and chemicals that present mild to severe toxicity. So, yeah, I think my little alarm bell about Teflon does not appear to be unfounded. And I don't know why Kmart stopped selling this. Maybe there's some sort of legal issues going on in the background and they're going to stop selling all Teflon stuff.
Yeah, so that was my first reaction too. My cynical take on it is like they're expecting maybe a big lawsuit or something coming their way, Bruce.
You got to wonder.
So
what have I done about it? Probably 4 or 5 years ago, I got rid of all my non-stick cookware and I went back to what Grandma uses, cast iron. And I saw a meme once that said 95% of the foods in the supermarket were not around in your grandma's day, and neither were 95% of the illnesses.
Yeah, that's right.
So Grandma used to cook on cast iron, so that's all I cook on now. And it works fine. It's not super easy to clean, but it's not horrible. When you get a cast iron pan, you have to season it with oil. Don't use vegetable oil, of course. So you can Google how to do that, avocado oil, whatever. So there's a process of baking it basically several times with oil smeared on it. And then the more times you use it, the more non-stick it gets. It sort of gets that sort of develops a oily layer itself. And certainly cleaning it is not a huge drama. You know, I whack it back on the stove with a bit of water in it for a couple of minutes till it's boiling, and then basically there's nothing stuck to it. You can scrub it off with a scrubber. And the big thing is it does an off-gas Teflon. Something you might want to look at.
Yeah, that's exactly right. For informational purposes, there you go.
Not a recommendation. I'm just telling you what I did.
That's it.
All right. Diversity is strength, apparently. So this is a concerning story from Belgium because it shows us just where hate speech laws could go, because they've gone there in Belgium. This Indigenous Belgian man has been convicted of hate speech despite the judge agreeing that what he said was factual. So I'll quote what the story says. During the lecture, Mr. Van Langenhove, so he's clearly an Indigenous man from Belgium, discussed topics including the Great Replacement and multiculturalism, and said mass immigration was linked to crime and causing housing shortages and societal problems. And he produced ample evidence of that. Nobody doubts this. You know, immigrants from non-Western cultures who arrive in Western countries don't do well, at least to start with, and their rates of social dysfunction and crime are higher. Nobody can dispute that. That's what the facts show.
Yes, you could paste that article straight into the bloody Australian news cycle for the same over here, or the UK, or bloody Canada.
Yep. And now the judge specifically said that truth was not a defence. So the judge said, even if all of the statements made by Van Langenhove are based on scientific evidence and statistics, and they were, it makes no difference to the criminal intent. Van Langenhove is not charged with spreading false information. He is charged with preventing facts in a way that incites hatred against persons on the grounds of one or more protected criteria in the anti-racism law.
This is how far they've gone.
He's not allowed to stand up and say, you guys are ruining my country and here's the evidence. That is illegal. And he's gone to jail for saying it. Yes, it's coming here, obviously. Obviously, it's coming here.
Well, it's a bit like, well, it's the same context as you can't say that a man can't be a woman, Bruce. We've just legislated on that. We've just ruled on that in a court of law, and that was done through legislation.
Well, that's another protected criteria, you see.
That's right.
Yeah, of course. It'd be exactly the same.
Yep.
Yes, exactly right. So this is coming here. There's no doubt about it. This is coming here. We're a bit behind Europe in the destruction of our social capital, but the direction is the same.
100%. Well, yeah. I mean, in some aspects, we are creeping up there very, very, very closely.
And I've recently been reading a book by a Serbian who survived the siege of Sarajevo. And he's talking about how he did it and what he experienced. And he's clearly a very damaged man. He's been utterly shattered by what he did and saw to survive the siege of Sarajevo. And one of the things he said is, you people in the West, you all think you have all these rights and privileges and laws and rules. You have no idea they can go away in an instant.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I do know they can go away in an instant. I've seen the parts of the world where they have gone away.
Yep. Unfortunately, they're doing it by stealth via legislation and bills and bureaucracy, by well cashed up, funded and ideological, groups and individuals.
And I saw another article, which I haven't referenced here, which was a scientific paper which correlated the will of the people versus the outcome of legislation. And they said, normally the more people support a piece of law, the more likely it should be to pass. So you should get this slope to your line. They said you don't. You get this slope to your line. There is no correlation between the will of the people and the effects of legislation that's being passed. None at all. Our wise rulers are completely ignoring us.
And this is why Stephen Tripp, the President for Australians for Better Government, just put a media release out in regards to pushing for citizen-initiated vetoes. So people, sort of the Swiss model have, and over a certain amount of people can sign a petition to get certain legislation repealed or kicked out that isn't favourable to the people. Once they find that politicians have legislated something, that the people can actually say, no, screw that, we're not having this, and getting it repealed. And that's the mechanisms we need here, because who wants to wait 4 years for a potential one nation to be elected to repeal bills?
Yeah, if the people vote against something, for example, the Aboriginal voice to Parliament, and pretty much every state voted against it 2-1. Or if Albo takes his election platform to the people saying, I will not change capital gains tax, I will not affect housing, and they do. In America, they have a thing called recall, and I don't know the specifics of it. But again, if the population is thoroughly dissatisfied with the person they voted in, under certain criteria, they can actually recall them and make them go to an election again. I think that the bar would have to be fairly high, but that's a mechanism we should have.
100%. Well, citizen-initiated veto. I mean, can you imagine how many people, you see the outrage at what happened with Sal Grover, with Giggle v Tickle, and how much that's getting media attraction. I mean, I don't think it'd be any problem to get 200,000 people to sign a petition to get that Sexual Discrimination Act repealed, that part where they inserted gender, and get it, which is what, the One Nation and others are pushing for now anyway.
And that's the obvious solution. I don't care what your gender is, all the legislation's about sex.
Yep.
Now, in the diversity front, bit of good news this week, but something that makes me a bit apprehensive because I've been panelled for a advanced driving course for the CFA, and I noted that they had this this part in the joining instructions. Please respond to this email if you have special dietary requirements to ensure we cater accordingly. So they've actually asked me to do this, and they've assured me that as a result they'll meet my requirements. So as discussed, I wrote, I note your request that students notify you of any dietary requirements, hence advise that I require non-halal food.
Fair enough. No response yet?
Oh, it's only a day or two ago that I sent that, so yes, that's right.
So they put you on a skid.
Say again?
Will they put you on a skid pan in the fire truck, Bruce?
I hope not. I hope not. Heavy trucks are not driven much differently on a priority 1 call to any other call, and certainly in a rural area. We're still speed limited to about 110 clicks, and we're driving a big heavy thing with 4 tons of water sloshing around. So, yeah, you're not doing anything fancy. About the only benefit you might get is if you slow down, you can breach a traffic light if it's red. And in fact, I did that the other day up in Stawell, and I came into this one of the few traffic lights on the main road in the fire truck, and I'm watching the traffic, and I slowed down. I was only going about 20 kilometres an hour, and yep, someone just drove straight across in front of me. So you never assume. A couple of tips for driving emergency vehicles. Don't put pressure on civilians. Don't get right up behind them and surprise them, because they'll either slam on the brakes or swerve into you. Don't, just go sailing through an intersection at 60 or 80k with your lights flashing, because half at least of the drivers cannot hear you inside their cars. You got to make sure they've seen you. And the final thing is, do not stop. So if you roll up to an intersection, you drop your speed. Maybe you're only going 10 or 20 kilometres an hour as you approach into it, but your wheels are still moving, and anyone looking at you going, crap, a fire truck, can see that you're still moving. If you stop, they don't know what to do. Am I supposed to go through now? I've got a green light. So there are a few tips I got from 30 or 40 years of doing this.
Yeah, well, 30 or 40 years must owe you something.
Yeah, maybe I'll learn something. Now, that led me, of course, to just do a little dive into what halal and haram is, because halal is a method of religiously preparing food, a bit like kosher. They're two variants of the same thing. So here are just a few things that you need to have to make your food halal, permissible, as opposed to haram, forbidden. So things that are not permissible in halal food is pork, and the Jews share that. It's kosher food. Alcohol is not allowed. Now this one, blood in liquid form. I like my steak still a little bit red, and it's not uncommon for some of that to ooze out when I'm eating it. So that's no good to me.
No.
And there are some restrictions about slaughter as well. But the biggest thing I don't like about the slaughter process is this. The name of God, Allah, must be pronounced at the time of slaughter. So I have a friend in the fire service who actually works at one of the major meat packing companies as well. And I've discussed this with him, and he said all meat is halal these days. It's all processed that way. So the Islamic minority in this country have captured the slaughter market, because you can't be a heathen, an infidel, and invoke the name of Allah. So you've got to have a Muslim slaughterman who at the moment of slaughter says God is great, or whatever they're required to say. And you can assume any meat you buy in the supermarket is already meets this, because as the guy from the packing company said, it's too hard, we just do it all that way. Now, I personally, I don't want meat that meets this requirement. I've previously stated that I don't believe Islam is a religion. I think it's a totalitarian political ideology masquerading as a religion. And I think that's a threat to Western values. And anyone who looks around the world or been around the world is probably going to have trouble arguing with me there. So I do not want to support this. I do not want to have any food prepared for me that has been dedicated to Allah at the moment of slaughter. I don't want an Islamic prayer over it. I don't want a Jewish prayer over it. I don't even want a Christian prayer over it. I want good, clean food that doesn't have any religious ritual over it whatsoever. So that's what I'm asking for. And I'll let you know in a week or 3 what I get, because my prediction is someone will contact me and say, we don't even know what this is. And on the day I'll turn up and I'll just get what everybody else gets. That's my prediction.
Yep. There's big funding in that, because I know I was following Kira Lee Smith quite heavily when there was this big push about the halal certification scheme here in Australia, where a lot of the food that's on the shelves in the supermarkets had to be halal certified, and they were obviously getting a kickback for that. So they had to pay a fee so companies had to pay a fee to be halal certified. And what do companies, organizations do? They pass on the cost of any additional fees to the running of their business onto the consumers. So ultimately, consumers are paying for halal certification for the majority of the food that's probably on the shelves on the supermarket. And Kira Lee Smith copped a fair bit of slack. I mean, she went pretty hard on it. I think he took her to court, this particular guy, and all that. But it was pretty in the media about 10 years ago, really heavily about this halal certification scheme.
It adds cost, but it also adds in a religious layer that I don't want added in on my food.
Yep,
I don't
100%.
want that.
And fair enough.
And
too.
the people on the other side can argue, well, I need it religiously prepared. So why can't I argue that I exclude it from being religiously prepared?
That's right. And you should be able to. You're a native.
Well, I am. They've actually invited me on the joining instructions to let them know of any requirements I have so they can meet them.
Yep. There you go.
Let's see where it goes.
I'm pretty sure we'll get an update as the week go on.
Yep. All right, the Big Daddy government section. So, oops, wrong way. So, as noted, we previously discussed the ULEZ blade runners in London and the UK. So, the council in London decreed that you were only allowed to drive your car under certain conditions in certain places, certain times a week, and that you got taxed more if your car was not environmentally friendly. You know, if it was a diesel, if it was a petrol older than XYZ. And as a result, the taxes that they added by doing this were very substantial. So a tradie trying to work in London with his Hilux ute might find that he was paying a couple of £100 a week in ULEZ charges, ultra low emission zone charges, whereas previously none of that applied. And there was huge pushback to this, and in fact, large numbers of the cameras were simply cut down. And interesting, go on the YouTubes and have a look at how they did it. So they either just angle grinded them off with a Bunnings angle grinder. How they got round cutting the cables, none of them seemed to get electrocuted. There were others who put a paint spray can on a broom with some sort of remote trigger mechanism, and they'd lift that up and spray the lens. And others put a butane, like a torch, a little pressure pack torches. They'd turn them on, they're attached to a broom, and they'd lift them up and burn the camera head with them. So this was a huge pushback by the general public saying, we don't agree with that, and you've rolled it out against our wishes, and we're not going to have it. And that was good to see. Now, that spread to Victoria, apparently, because there's been a spate of cutting down speed reduction signs in a part of Victoria for the same reason. our wise experts have decreed that you have to drive slower on this road now. And look, most times that happens, people put up with it because it's become more urban and it seems reasonable. But obviously in this case, it seems arbitrary to the people who are going to use the road. And they've said, no, we have an opinion too. You don't get to dictate to us just because you've got the law behind you or your experts. We don't agree with you and we're not going to go along with it. And you see this. And let's face it, this is what we do when we're driving all the time. The vast majority of the time, you drive to the conditions. And if it gets wet or windy or whatever, you slow down. If it's a nice open piece of road, you speed up. And many a time, you don't actually even know what the speed limit is, but you know what an appropriate speed is to drive. So speed limits are not just this thing set by political dictate from above. You know, we have a formula. They're largely set by what people want and what people will comply with. And if you set a law which is vastly out of connection with what the actual people want, then they'll just not comply with it, and you'll get active resistance like this. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, well, the people are speaking, Bruce. The people are speaking.
People are having their voice, and I think it's good.
They hear the people singing a song of angry men.
Now, here's the government's response to the elbow memes, which we've looked at over the last couple of weeks, where I was so pleased to notice that when the extra taxes were whacked on in the budget, people suddenly worked out that the government is your silent business partner who does nothing except hold their hand out at the end for a cut of the profits. And many small businesses, startups, who basically start as a zero value business, were suddenly realizing, look, if I put years and years of work into this and I build it from, you know, the back of my ute into a $5 million carpentry business, plumbing business, whatever, after I've done all of that, I've made a $5 million profit, and Albo's going to stick his hand out for 47% of it. They do. That's exactly what they do. So it is really good to see people waking up to the fact that, yeah, the government is your silent business partner, whether you like it or not. They take no risks. They just take half the profit. And by the way, it's the same for wage earners. If you're a wage earner, you go and do your job wherever, depending on what your top tax bracket is, the government's taking 28%, 35%, 47% of your money and having done nothing. You do an extra day, you do a day of overtime in your job and push yourself up into the top tax bracket, Albo sticks his hand out for half the money.
Yep.
It's been great to see people waking up to that. I've known that for a long time.
No, they've been smashing the memes. They can't be going everywhere. And now all of a sudden they slowed down. See, because he's you know, getting upset for the hurty words and the naughty memes. Uncle Albo, poor little petal.
Well, Albo's come out and said that, yeah, what you're doing could be illegal because you can't use AI to misrepresent people. What a childish response.
Oh, really? You know, so,
anyway, it shows that it's working. It shows that it's working. So keep doing it, people. Does the government really want to take a plumbing business to court for that mean?
Maybe they can all do a class action, band it together and take Albo to court for screwing them over.
Yeah, well, that's also known as kicking him out at the next election. And
yeah,
I've got to think Labor's got to be getting worried now. I'm not really confident that they will get kicked out at the next election because they've got something like a 90-seat majority. So to lose that many seats in an election, however on the nose they are, is an enormous thing. But what is good is, one, let's say they lose 60 seats. That's 60 members who know they're at risk before the election and can put pressure upwards and pressure Albo. Look, don't do that. You know, I can't have that legislation because I'm going to lose my seat.
Yeah, but we've seen that doesn't matter, Bruce, because they flip-flop on the bloody things. They might say, "Oh, don't talk about that now. We'll take this to the election. We'll be good. We'll be good little socialists now." But then once they're voted back in, they change the rules, don't they?
They've already done it, mate. They took it to the election in the negative, and now they've gone back on it, and that's why they're getting so much pushback. Not only is it bad, but it's only a year since they went to the election saying they would not do this.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right.
So people are rightly very annoyed about it, and it's going to hurt them. You know, I'm seeing stories in the media every day saying that auctions have gone quiet. People don't know what to do in the property market. It's called sovereign risk, the risk that your government will change the rules on you.
Yep.
All right. Anyway, back to the you can't do herdie memes. I'm reminded from Voltaire of the difference between a representative and a ruler. And Voltaire said, if you want to know who rules over you, simply find out who you are not allowed to criticise. Apparently, Albo doesn't like the memes. That means he's not a representative, he's a ruler.
This is right. There's his business trips to see Xi Jinping have paid off.
Well, the people are noticing, and it's going to hurt. All right. So a bit of a new section now under MISC. I was on Robert Malone's Substack today. He's one of the great COVID experts who came out on the side of good, not of evil. And he does a Sunday Funnies each week, and he has a number of these cartoons. So I just picked a few of them. So, and this is relevant in Australia. What is a woman? I don't know. Are trans women women? Yes. How do you know? Because they are women. What is a woman? I don't know.
So how can a trans woman be a woman?
Yeah. What is a woman, Professor Murphy?
Yes.
Okay, what about
I'll take that on notice, Bruce. I'm going to take it on notice.
It's a complicated thing, you know. Okay, got Bert Nooney here. Why isn't China concerned about climate change? Because they already have a communist government.
Yep. Boom, boom.
Nice one. Bette Midler, one of those sort of classic lefty celebrities in the US, has tweeted out to the NRA, the National Rifle Association, which is a body that supports the rights of gun owners. She's tweeted out, "Hey NRA, how many lives did you take today?" The reply was 0. Now do Planned Parenthood.
Yeah. Yep. That was a good one. Yep. 100%.
That's beautiful, isn't it?
That is beautiful comeback. For a leftist.
This one, we sort of talk about this. Fairy tales used to start with once upon a time. Today, fairy tales begin with according to experts.
Yes. I love that. Yes. Cash coming out of the pockets and all that. Yep.
Did you say cash?
Yes. I was wondering whether you were going to give this a run. I thought you might give it a run.
This is Michaela Cash. So this is in the Muslim section. This is another ridiculous story from the trans files. So this is a conversation in Senate estimates between Liberal Senator Cash and Sex Discrimination Commissioner Dr. Anna Cody, where Cody said it was against the law to discriminate against a trans woman on the grounds that they are or might become pregnant.
Lucky I didn't gazump you then, because I was going to give that a run.
Were you? I would have let you, obviously. So let's. I think I've got that one queued up. Let's play what was said there.
Yeah, I haven't got it. You haven't got it up on the screen. I haven't got anything.
Oh, I'm about to. So that will be that one.
I'll take that one down. See if we can find him. I've got it primed if you want me to. Can't see it though, mate. It's not screen shared.
Okay, so let me just. Okay, what am I doing wrong there?
Do you want me to bring mine up?
No, well, I think I got it. Let's see. Do you see that one
Okay.
now?
Here we go.
All right,
Yep,
let's start
there we
on
go.
PayId. So this
There we
is
go.
Sex Discrimination Commissioner and Senator Cash.
Volume.
Pregnancy protections to people, to transgender women?
Senator, not from my recollection.
No, that's what I'm asking. I was
In the
wondering, as you said, the
submissions-
status of your
no,
submission.
in the submissions,
No.
we talked about the meaning of pregnancy and potential pregnancy and how that may apply.
So
to
can I ask,
gender
how
identity.
do you see that applying in the Act currently to trans women?
Trans women, if someone is who applies for a job, for example,
Yes.
and it is a trans woman and she may be asked whether or not she intends to have children, and if she replies, yes, I do, and then doesn't get the job because that employer doesn't want to employ women who may be of childbearing age, then she may have been subjected to unlawful discrimination on the basis of potential pregnancy.
I'm very confused. A biological male can't become pregnant.
But the grounds of pregnancy includes potential pregnancy as well as pregnancy.
But if they can't become pregnant, how can you then become potentially pregnant?
It's about the unlawful treatment by the employer. If someone is treated unfairly on the basis of pregnancy or potential pregnancy, then that is unlawful discrimination on the basis of pregnancy.
So if a bloke came in and they said, are you going to have children? Which is the same question really. And he said, oh, yeah, maybe. Are you saying that he could also claim that ground?
If he didn't receive the job because...
But they can't get pregnant.
No, not a man who is seeking a position, then it's not going to apply to a man.
Well, they're both biological men. It makes no sense. A biological man, you stated a biological man can't get pregnant. Am I correct? Because if I'm not, I've got to go back to school. I seriously do, because I missed that lesson in biology. I went to a convent school. The nuns may not have told me about it. But you said a biological man can't get pregnant.
That's correct, Senator. But someone who is a trans woman may be assumed to be pregnant or to be able to be pregnant.
So what stops the man putting on a dress, walking in and claiming the protections? He's now a woman. You've admitted that.
That would be up to a court to decide whether or not it was discrimination on the basis
So it's the and with all due respect, yep, it is the absurdity of the law yet again, which shows, again, the law does need to be changed because, for the record, biological men, doesn't matter what way you cut it, you cannot get pregnant. And quite frankly, it is an insult to women who actually are discriminated on because they want to have children when they biologically can get pregnant. But the good news is what we're proving today is the law needs to be changed.
That is an absolute classic for the Muslim bird of ridiculosity, Bruce. That is the epitome of the Muslim bird of ridiculosity. Now, this person is likely getting paid over $500,000 a year. Probably, I'm not sure. I haven't looked it up myself, but they'll be on a bucket load of money. And she is a female herself. God forbid I'll get in trouble for saying that. From what
They
I
all are.
understand.
I don't think
Right.
there's ever been a male sex discrimination commissioner.
But what an absolute traitor to her kind. Like, really? I mean, it's just unbelievable, mate. I just can't fathom it. And that's probably why it's getting so much traction in the media, that, this person would say that, man can claim, and this is where it's all gone to, right? This is all goes back to the Sex Discrimination Act. This is all Julia Gillard. All falls back on her. It's all because of that. And again, as I showed in my article that I showed at the beginning, it is funded. It has links at least way back to the year 2000, 2008, where all this stuff was instigated all the way through into our own legislation and policies. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
Actually,
And
say that
Julia-
straight face too.
Julia Gillard left these landmines behind.
Yeah, 100%. She doesn't care. She's on a bucket load of money doing all these world speaking tours, and she's aligned with some other mob now, apparently. I saw something, I can't remember, can't quote it exactly, but she's heavily involved with another organisation now. It might be something to do with climate or something. I don't know. But anyway.
I just looked up, by the way,
Yep.
400 plus
Revolving
thousand.
door. I did an article about that one too.
Right, where are we here? So that was that bit of ridiculosity in Senate estimates with our $400,000 a year sex discrimination commissioner opining that whilst men can't get pregnant, discriminating against them on the basis that they might is illegal.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
Yes. All right. Now, Dr. Cody on $400,000 a year and clarifying all these things from us clearly doesn't know what a woman is. And fair enough, because Dr. Cody is not a medical doctor. She's got all sorts of doctorates and higher degrees in law. So she's not there to tell us biology. So, yep, no wonder she can, with a straight face, go through that, because she's only looking at the law. And they have to look at the law. A bit like the case in Belgium. That judge isn't passing the judgment based on what he would like to do. He has to follow a law.
A law, and that's exactly right.
There is a law, obviously, in Belgium that says truth is not a defence to criticising migrants. That's the crux of what's just happened here. And same here. Truth is not, or ridiculosity is not a defence to a transgender woman, whatever that is, who says, I didn't get the job in case I got pregnant. It's not a defence.
Yep. Yep. And this is how far we've fallen as a society. This is what happens when other cultures have gone that way in the past.
Yep. Late stage of a dying empire.
Yep.
And I've got to play Senator Antic again because it's just so good.
Yeah, it's a classic. Yeah. Well, you're going to take that on notice, Bruce.
Righto. Well, I'm going to finish up then, because this hasn't been very helpful, with a very simple question for the department, and that is one which has troubled me for a great deal of time with the bureaucracy here. Can someone please provide me with a definition of what a woman is? Department of Health. Definition of a man, definition of a woman. Anyone?
It's pretty basic.
Basic stuff. Professor Murphy.
I think there are a variety of definitions, and I think
it's a simple one.
To give a more fulsome answer, we should take that on notice.
You're going to take on notice the question of what a woman is.
No, well, there are a variety. It's a very contested space at the moment, Senator.
It's not just a woman who's born a woman.
But there are definitions in terms of how people identify themselves. So we're happy to provide our working definition.
Is one of the. I've only been here 2 years. That's the best thing I've seen thus far. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Can't get any more ridiculous than that, eh, brother?
Yes. So I don't actually blame the lawyer running the Sex Discrimination Commission for not knowing what a woman is, because Professor Murphy did not know what a woman is. And in fact, we are left at the point where we need judges to tell us, not biologists. It's just ridiculous.
Yep.
Now, both of them said basically that it was a complicated area. So let me simplify it a bit for them. Gender equals the fields and sex equals the plumbing. That's how you work out which one it is. It's not difficult. And the Sex Discrimination Commissioner should be looking into sex discrimination. She's strayed there into gender, which is not the role of the Sex Discrimination Commissioner. And I think that's why she's got tangled up in saying ridiculosities.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it can't get any more simpler than that. Yeah. Sex is binary.
As opposed to non-binary, which means there's two. Yeah. Or multi-binary, of course.
Well,
okay.
Too, I guess.
So the question here is, why are our wise authorities and experts pushing obvious absurdities upon us and criminalising people who say that's bullshit? Why are they doing that? Well, Voltaire centuries ago had one explanation for that. So Voltaire said, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. Yep, that's one.
Yeah,
answer, I
your
guess.
neighbour. Yep.
And here's another. This is from Theodore Dalrymple. Theodore Dalrymple is an English prison doctor who's also a political writer and commentator. And he wrote this about political correctness, part of which, of course, is all the whole trans woman bullshit. He said, political correctness is communist propaganda writ small. In my study of communist societies, I came to the conclusion that the purpose of communist propaganda was not to persuade or convince, not to inform, but to humiliate. And therefore, the less it corresponded to reality, the better. When people are forced to remain silent when they are being told the most obvious lies, or even worse, when they are forced to repeat the lies themselves, they lose once and for all their sense of probity. To assent to obvious lies is in some small way to become evil yourself. One's standing to resist anything is thus eroded and even destroyed. A society of emasculated liars is easy to control. I think if you examine political correctness, it has the same effect and is intended to.
Yep.
So two things. Yep. One is you can force people to do terrible things with lies. And the other thing is you can break their will as independent thinkers by forcing them to say things which are not true.
Yep. Boom tish.
Hang on, I've got to respond to this one. So what have we got here? Dinner on the table. We have chicken schnitzel. Blah. I've got to give you a strike there because I'm day 4 of a 5-day fast. So there'll be none of this food commentary for another day. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. How rude. That's pretty.
That's hate speech. Deliberate provocation. That is.
That is absolutely. That is pretty mean.
Scrolling back, were there any other things worth discussing?
No, you can check out a few. I think a lot of it was a bit of commentary, more commentary. While you do that, Bruce, just to tie that what you were just talking about there in, I've just got another little short clip that you might appreciate. Let me just bring that up and see.
Go for it.
Appreciate it. Ties into the same vein. Let's bring it up here. Another good politician doing some good work. Gets on well with Alex as well. So here's Lozzie on X, True Fairy 131, and she's written, in a room full of women in Parliament, the only person advocating for and defending girls and women's rights is a man. Crazy times. Woke, delusional women have no place in positions of power. They are a danger to all girls and women.
Does the Office for Women stand with biological women, or does this office also include men identifying as women?
We stand with all women, Senator.
So that's biological women?
What does that term even mean? It's a ridiculous question.
Said all women, Senator Roberts.
So I stand
You're trying to create
safe spaces for women. I want women's rights back.
How about you leave that up to us to figure out for ourselves?
Well, that's what I'm doing, and they're coming to me saying, for goodness sake, pursue this issue with the Office for Women. Senator Cash knows all about it. That's exactly what we're doing. So I stand for women's rights as hard fought for and won by the feminist movement decades ago. Do you believe that a man that is born with male genitals and male chromosomes can be anything other than a male?
This is a medical question, Senator Roberts. You're better off in the Health Department, which is next week.
Does the Office for Women stand with...
That is a medical question. You're better off with the Department of Health.
But they don't know.
No.
They don't know the answer.
No. How ridiculous.
The garbage truck driver knows the answer.
Yeah. any bloody sane person knows the answer. These people, all these people in that committee there that were in there with Malcolm Roberts, they're on a bucket load of money. Where you mentioned that the commissioner's on $400,000 a year. All these people are on a ton of money, ton of our money. And they're given bloody BS responses like that, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Bloody crazy, man. The only other thing is, I'm not sure if people were aware about it, but someone just reminded me of a video I watched of it about 3 months ago when it came out, but I'm not sure if anybody's seen it. And this is sort of talks into what we're talking about. This is a film by Jason Christoff. It's a Planet Mind Control. It's a documentary. It goes for an hour a bit or something. I think it is a couple of hours, hour and 13. So it's not super long, but it talks into where this is all coming from. All this brainwashing, mind control, and all that sort of stuff. So people haven't seen it. This one here is actually on Manic Media. It's on a platform called Manic Media, and it's Planet Mind Control by Jason Christoff for people that haven't seen it yet. But yeah, worth a watch. Worth a watch.
Righto.
Are we back to it?
I think that's that. Let's just go on.
Yep. We're at the end, Bruce. Oh, there you go. Look at that. I fluffed it out to just on 2 hours. You can go now. Thanks again. Thanks everybody for contributing. As always, really appreciate it. It's there's a lot there, but you definitely need to have a bit of a rest. You sound a little bit flat, my friend. So hopefully get the food into you tomorrow. Get back off your water diet and start munging out again and go from there. So, but anyway, God bless you. Thank you everybody for joining us again. As always, it's a pleasure to have you all on board and sending your comments through. Cheerio, my dear chap.
Likewise, catches.
To fight again for that already burned, it was driven towards the flames. All the signs are there for all to see, the signs we've lost our way. When we jail our heroes and applaud our villains and turn our hearts away, like a silent choir, too scared to sing the anthem of a braver day. A song our children may never hear, the ballad of Dr Bruce Paix. A song our children may never hear, the ballad of Dr Bruce Paix.